didn't hold my heart back, I laid it in your hands. Every truth I was afraid of, I let you understand. I loved you out in the open, no armor, no disguise. I trusted every promise I saw forever in your eyes. You said love shouldn't feel heavy, that it should come easy and clear. But I was loving you honestly, I loved you without fear. I loved you without fear, with nothing left to hide. I gave you all my heart, no place left to survive. I stayed when doubt was rising, you ran when it got real. I loved you without fear, and that's why this still kills. I never played it safe with you, never learned to pretend. I believed in every always, I thought you meant to the end. I fought for us in silence, while you questioned what we were. I was ready for forever, you were scared of more. You say you needed freedom, like love was something near, but I was choosing you daily. I loved you without fear. I loved you without fear, when loving meant pain, when staying broke me slowly, and leaving felt the same. I gave you all my truth, you gave me what you could steal. I loved you without fear, and that's why this feels real. Oh, maybe loving bravely scares hearts that want control. Oh, maybe death feels dangerous to someone afraid to be whole. I don't regret the way I loved, I regret loving alone. I built a future in your arms and watched it come undone. If loving without fear was wrong, I still choose it again. I loved you without fear, with fate not guarantees. I gave you all of me, and begged you not to leave. You guarded your heart carefully, I let you into mine. I loved you without fear, and paid the highest price. One day I'll love someone who meets me just as deep, but tonight I'm letting go of loving you so fearlessly. I learned how to whisper my feelings so I wouldn't scare you away. I swallowed the words I was aching to say, just to make you stay. I loved you in small unseen ways, in the spaces you didn't look. I was writing our story alone, while you closed the book. I made myself easy to love, by asking for less than I needed. I called it patience and trust, but I was bleeding. I stayed loving you quietly. When my heart was loud, I held my tears in the dark, so you wouldn't feel bad. I loved you gently, silently, so you wouldn't run. I stayed loving you quietly, till the quiet one. I memorized your moves and timing, learned when to let things be. I made peace with your distance like it was loyalty. I stayed when love went missing, when you stopped choosing me. I kept hoping you'd notice what I gave so easily. You said I never asked for much, like that was a good thing. You didn't hear the silence, you just heard nothing. I stayed loving you quietly. When it hurt to breathe, I kept my pain in my chest, so you'd never see. I loved you without demand, without a sound. I stayed loving you quietly, till I faded out. Maybe love isn't supposed to shrink to make someone stay. Maybe silence isn't strength when it costs you everything. I wasn't asking for the world just to be seen, but loving you quietly made me disappear in between. I don't regret the way I loved, I regret how small I became. I stayed loving you quietly, till there was nothing left. I gave you all my patience, you gave me your absence. I waited in the background while you moved on. I stayed loving you quietly. Now I'm gone. One day I'll love out again, without fear or disguise. But tonight I'm letting go of loving you quietly. I loved you in ways I never learned. I gave you parts I couldn't replace. I trusted you with all my fears and every fragile piece of faith. I saw the cracks, I felt the cold, but still I chose to stay. I kept believing love would grow if I loved harder every day. You said I felt too much, like that was my mistake, but loving you was never light. It was everything I had to give. I loved you with my whole heart. No backup plan, no shield. I gave you all of me and hoped you never leave. I loved you with my whole heart. While you loved what was easy, I stayed through every breaking part. I loved you with my whole heart, and you didn't love me deeply. I defended you and no one knew the way you put on me. I carried all our silence like it was loyalty. I waited through your distance Through nights you disappeared, I kept us alive in my mind. While you were already free, I thought love meant holding on. Even when it hurt, I didn't know I was the only one doing all the work. I loved you with my whole heart. When you were unsure, when staying meant breaking and leaving meant cure, I loved you with my whole heart. Through doubt and delay, I gave you forever, you gave me one day. I loved you with my whole heart and paid the price. Maybe loving fully scares the ones who love halfway. Maybe depth feels like a burden to hearts that want escape. I don't regret the way I loved, I regret loving alone. I built a home inside your arms, but I slept there on my own. If loving you was wrong, I'd still do it again. I just wish it didn't cost who I was back then. I loved you with my whole heart. With nothing left to hide, I stayed when love was heavy. You chose the light aside, I gave you all my truth. Every scar, every part, you walked away untouched. I loved you with my whole heart. One day I'll love someone who meets me where I start, but tonight I'm letting go of loving you with my whole heart. I defended you in rooms you never entered, made excuses you never asked for. I believed in us through every fracture, when believing started to hurt. I wore your silence like a promise, told myself you'd come around. I stood guard over what we were, while you slowly let it down. I mistook my loyalty for strength, thought patience would be enough. I kept choosing us alone, calling it love. I stayed too faithful when you stayed unsure. I held on tightly while you looked for doors. I loved you fully, you loved when it was safe. I broke my heart protecting every promise that you made. I stayed too faithful and you walked away. I memorize your moods and seasons, learn when not to speak. I softened every truth I felt, so you wouldn't feel weak. I waited through your distance, through nights you couldn't explain. I kept the faith when love went quiet and silence screamed my name. You said I can't but tonight I'm learning the truth. I stay too faithful, and that's okay. I loved you in the quiet moments, when doubt was in your eyes, when your words felt half-spoken, and your promises felt tight. I saw the cracks before the show, I felt the ending start, but I kept believing in us, with a hopeful, breaking heart. You said just give it time, so I gave you all of mine. I held on to every maybe, like it was a sign. I loved you with hope, when love wasn't enough, when you were unsure, and I stayed in the rough. I loved you with faith, you loved me with fear. I kept seeing tomorrow while you disappeared. I loved you with hope, and that's why it hurts. I made excuses for your distance, say you were just lost. I paid the price of patience, no matter what it cost. I learned how to wait in silence, how to smile through pain. I kept watering a future while you watched it fade. You said you didn't know what your heart could hold. I believed in what we were more than what you told. I loved you with hope, when nights felt long, when holding on felt so damn wrong. I loved you with truth, you loved me halfway. I fought for a future, you wouldn't stay. I loved you with hope, and that's why it hurts. Hope is a beautiful liar when love won't meet you halfway. It keeps you warm in the fire while you're slowly burning away. I thought believing was strength, I didn't know it could bleed. I didn't know loving you would mean losing me. I don't regret loving you, I regret loving the idea of who you could have been. I loved you with hope, when you let me down, when every goodbye was just another sound. I loved you with heart, you loved me with doubt. I held us together till I ran out. I loved you with hope, and I paid the cost. One day I'll love without fear, without waiting for proof. But tonight I'm letting you go. I loved you with hope, now I choose truth.